While crypto ATM machines are gaining popularity, state officials say they have also led scams totaling millions of dollars.
Now, they work like an ATM, but they deal with digital or virtual currency, and they're a common target for thieves. WECT's Rachel Holly tonight looking into a new law aimed at protecting you from these kinds of scams. A law puts a number of regulations in place, Rachel.
That's right. These new rules create service fee caps and additional requirements on operations, but that doesn't make scams impossible.
At first glance, these look like any other ATM at a convenience store or gas station. But they're crypto ATMs, or virtual currency kiosks. And with that new technology comes new scams. That's why state lawmakers approved House Bill 920, the Virtual Currency Kiosk Consumer Protection Act, aimed at slowing fraud tied to these machines. In 2025, North Carolinians lost $13 million to scams through crypto or Bitcoin ATMs. The money is often taken from people who think they're paying a fine, helping a family member, or fixing a problem with their bank account. Governor Josh Stein said in a statement, quote, "As technology changes and scammers get more sophisticated, our laws must keep up." The bill adds consumer protections and limits for kiosk operators, requires operators to be licensed, caps service fees at 14%, and includes safeguards like scam alert signs and receipts. It also sets daily transaction limits and bans practices like using QR codes for logins. The North Carolina Commissioner of Banks says, quote, "This new legislation adds meaningful consumer protections to the existing regulatory framework." But technology and business expert Donald Thompson says while the new rules are a step forward, he warns scammers don't stop, they adjust.
So it's really important not only that we have good, strong regulation, but we have an educated consumer community.
While that education may take time, lawmakers hope this new bill will help protect people until more changes are needed.
State leaders say if you're being pressured to use a crypto ATM, especially to pay a fee or fine, stop and verify it first. Rachel Holly, WCT News.